Hello, Gary Kiesler here, and it's October the 3rd, Friday, 2025. We finished with the Day of Atonement, and we're moving up to the Feast of Tabernacles on October the 6th through the 11th. And so, I'll tell you a little bit about a weird dream I had last night, very short, but I'm going to get that in a minute because it might have a little bit to do with what we're going to see first. We're going to look at this interstellar asteroid we have coming through our solar system here. And if you look at the middle, you can see three asteroids on the screen. Of course, those have the tails on them, so you can see the ones with the tails. The middle one, where it says 3I Atlas above that, is the middle one. That's the one very close to Mars. And so that's Mars, is a planet right below that, and it's heading toward the sun. We can see another comet to the left of the screen below this one is called Swan. It's also a bigger asteroid, and I really don't know the name of the first one up here. This is called K1 Atlas. Now, let me explain this. 3I means the third interstellar comet we've had come through our solar system, and it's called Atlas because Atlas is the name of the observatory that first found it or located it. So that's why they're called Atlas. So the K1 Atlas up there, I think it means it's a regular asteroid that goes around something or maybe through the galaxy and back, but it's been around before. This one, 3I Atlas, has never been here before. Supposedly it will never be here again, especially if things happen to it while it's in our galaxy. And there's one at the bottom, I forget what this is called. It's smaller, and it's following normal Atlas, comet procedures. Now this 3I Atlas has got a strange magnetic graph on it when they hit it with the radiology stuff and the radiometry stuff, and so it's got a strange thing. They say that the core of this is, instead of being made out of just water vapor, like most comets are, it's got a solid nucleus of carbon monoxide. We've never seen that before. It's the first time for this. It's going to be traveling around the sun. Now they don't know is it passing by Mars at about 18 million miles away. Of course, what could it do possibly to Mars's orbit? Could it throw Mars' orbit a little bit out of line so that in a couple of years from now we could be bringing in some of the events of the last days, which I'm going to look at how that could affect us in maybe 3.5 years. This could be the start of something we don't even suspect. In 23 days, when it's going around the sun up there, it won't be visible from the Earth, but what could happen as it goes around the sun? Is it possible that part of it could break off due to the heat of the sun, go into the sun, cause electromagnetic flares, cause the solar winds to do something, cause electromagnetic pulses to come through the solar system? They don't know anything about that. Nobody's speculating on that. So how will it affect Mars' orbit, if at all? Will any of it fragment before it gets to the sun? Will it fragment as it gets near the sun? Will it change the orbit? Right now it's going to swing out pretty far wide to the right and pass to the Earth about 50 million miles from the Earth. And but if it gets kicked in by the sun's orbit, it could come closer to the Earth. If it fragments in the sun, and some of those fragments could come toward the Earth, and that would let us see what we see happen in Revelation chapter 8, where it talks about wormwood and things hitting the Earth at high speed. So that could be happening in a couple years. It might just put some fragments out that are going to miss the Earth entirely now, but it might draw in closer by gravity and go around Jupiter, around the sun again, come back in 3.5 years and hit us then. So these are all things that are possible scenarios, although no one's talking about them, and there's a strange silence from NASA about this information. So just something to look at. I thought that was good. I'll just show you a couple other things now. It's going to go around the sun, so you can see right here, when this picture changes, if it changes, it didn't change. I don't know why it didn't change. Maybe you're watching me the whole time. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go to this one right there. All right, now that's currently kind of where we're at. That's where we're going to be, and this is when it's around the sun. So we see, there we go. This is just an overview of how it's coming in at a strange angle. See the little lines in this picture? Those are current known. Well, that's the planetary orbits right there, and all the known comets are going around the same direction. But this 3I Atlas is coming in at a strange angle. You see how it's going around. Now it's supposed to come. The Earth, of course, it would be much further out, and I think it's supposed to come on the outside of the Earth instead of the inside of the Earth, between the Earth and the Sun. Could be wrong, but I think that's interesting picture there. And of course this one right here is after it goes, this is around the sun. In this perspective, the Earth would be at the very bottom left of the screen. we would be blind from what's happening. They're trying to get some, telemetry on it from Hubble and other the James Webb satellites out in space and see what it's going to look like, but we really don't know. They have no idea. They're not even sure they'll be able to see it because it can damage equipment by looking at the sun, and so they really don't want to point their telescopes, space telescopes, too close toward it. All right, so Stefan Burns, Stfanburns, he's a astrophysicist or a something physicist. He does a really good YouTube videos. He's following us very closely, and it's not where I got these pictures, but he'll show you where to go where you can get shots like this yourself. I'm going to go over and do one more shot of this, and I'll talk about some things that are going on in my little dream. And let's see, I do this first. Go to that. You get to see me. I do share, and then we go over here. Okay, so this is what they haven't spoken to us at all about biblically, is that this is the where I've drawn in the white lines in here. This is the bottom, the lower part of the constellation Virgo, and you can see that 3i Atlas is just below the legs, and a couple weeks ago it was here just below the feet. It's traveling at 150,000 miles an hour. That's 150,000 miles an hour, much faster than you go in your boat. But it was down by her feet before, and Revelation 12 talks about the red dragon appearing at her feet. And of course, all these time frames in the Bible, we always look at them, we think they're right in order, or all happening at the exact same time. And I found that a lot of times, like in Matthew 24, the verses from 24:9 to 14 is talking about the whole period it talks about the first 3.5 years of Revelation 13. So it starts in 24:15 with the Antichrist going into the temple. I'm going to show you that in a minute, and that's the last 3.5 years of the tribulation. So we look at this, the Revelation 12 prophecy, we might be thinking that it's all happening at the same time. And then people later on said, well, the dragon didn't have to be there at the same time. Jupiter came and it went through the womb of Virgo in about 9 months. It was in what's called now retrograde. It was in retrograde, which means instead of going this way, around this way, it was actually going out and like an oval, far into space and coming back and doing that because of the way everything was rotating. So 9 months later, it came back and it actually traveled out the womb. And so they expected the red dragon to be right down here at the bottom, and it wasn't. But maybe this was it right down here when 3i Atlas was right about here. So maybe that's what they're talking about and what we're seeing. So giving you that information that these white lines are the lower torso of Virgo. And it also says in Revelation 13 that I saw a woman clothed with the sun. Well, Virgo is a woman, and her upper torso, part up here, is actually covered, goes underneath, behind the sun, really, because the stars are way out there that make the constellations, of course. So that she would have been clothed with the sun. So that fits that pretty good. So now we're going to come over here and we're going to go to, actually, we don't have to go anywhere. I'm just going to show you. You can see that. There we go. So now I'm going to show you these things where I was talking about in Matthew 24, and then I'll tell you about my little dream that I saw. It's talking, and this is in Matthew 24:15, which I said is the second half of Revelation 13, the second beast that comes into power. He says, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, then let him which is in Judea flee into the mountains. So that's starting the last 3.5 years right there. And I can kind of prove that by going over here to Luke 21, okay, and he talks about the same thing. Verse 21, then let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains. Okay, and so we see the same thing appearing there as over in here. Verse 16 is compared to Luke 21. Then look at verse 20, which just precedes this fleeing to Judah. And this is when it's talking about the same thing in Matthew 24:15. When you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, know that the desolation is nigh. So therefore, Jerusalem being owned by a foreign army is one of the keys that we can see there. And in Matthew 24, talking about the abomination of desolation, okay, because both happen just before Judea flees into the mountains. Verse 16 there, verse 21 there, verse 20 here, all right, compares to verse 15 here. So we can see that this is the start of Revelation 13, verse 11, when he goes into the temple. So this is the abomination, but it also comes in with a war. Jerusalem compassed by armies. Now it means, could be taken over by foreign troops, or it could mean just taken over by troops of maybe the person who's already there, because we know that the Antichrist made a 7-year covenant to protect Israel. Maybe his troops, like, you know, the United Nations troops or something, would be in there doing protection, like the National Guard troops are doing in America for Memphis. So, I mean, it's a strange comparison, but it is a comparison. So that's something to look at. Now, we can look at Revelation 12, and this was talking about the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed and keep the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. So we see that verse 16 above that, and the earth helped the woman and opened her mouth. Now, in case of a large tsunami, things striking the earth, as we read about in Revelation chapter 8, hitting the earth, that would be the same situation as we would see in this situation right here, over here in Revelation chapter 12, which is all about the symbolism of the constellations and the signs in the skies and things hitting the earth. So I think we see that is really kind of all together. I had a little dream. I had many dreams, and you know, I was hoping for the rapture to happen over the Day of Atonement, and that's passed. But last night, my dream that I woke up with this morning was a couple times I would see a door kind of in where I was, and they were darker places where I was at. I couldn't really tell where I was at. I think I was looking for something. Every once in a while, a door would crack open a little bit, and I would kind of run away from it, and then finally got to the place where I was in a room, and my wife and I had gone in a room. It was a larger room, maybe 100 by 100 feet, you know, but it was dark and black. But when we got in the room, we were talking, you know, and saying, "Are we safe? I don't know." And we looked around, and the door was there again behind us, and it was open just a crack, just about an inch, but you could see bright light coming through it, you know. And I was kind of wondering if that, you know, crack was just telling me maybe it's not time yet. You know, maybe, you know, it's not wide open. Like if we look in Revelation chapter 4, verse 1, John said, I saw a door open in heaven, and I heard a voice as the sound of a trumpet, and another voice that said, "Come up hither." And so then John was in the third heaven, or the second heaven, with Jesus and other people that were up there too, who were trying to take the scroll out of the hand of God. We see that in Revelation chapter 5. So you can see that this might have some symbolism. I don't know, but for me it was exciting because I just was wondering, and I was actually thinking, is the world situation, and I do this every couple of years, the world situation seems to get really bad at this time of year, especially with Israel. And that's the same boat we're in this year. So that is something that leads people to see this is part of the thing Jesus says to watch in Luke 21, 35 and 36. Part of the signs of the things that are happening on earth that would lead to nation rising against nation in Matthew 24:7. So we're thinking, watching these world events, well, we see that, you know, Israel's going through this again. Donald Trump has named the Department of Defense the Department of War because it's there to break things and to hurt people or kill people. I think the old Rush Limbaugh saying used to be. So we have to wonder, you know, if that's why I was thinking that this would be the appropriate time for a snare, Luke 21:35, to come on all the earth and our escape into rapture. But I'm seeing that even this could be delayed by another year or by another set of events, or even until maybe Pentecost this spring in 2026. So we don't see these things clearly, but I think we always get hints to keep us challenged and looking at what's happening, going on. These are all new things about the Israel and you know, Donald Trump's where he's going with this in different ways, maybe heading toward a war where people would hate each other. Plus, maybe any of these actions that might be caused by the asteroid coming into our solar system, all that impact may have something to do with what's going to be happening next year at this time, or some point in the future where nations are feeling maybe a little more frustrated and in despair and hopeless. But we are not supposed to despair or be hopeless. You know, we can always look at, and I'm going to take you to another screen here. I put this in my last video, Job 23:11 to 17. I hope you read it, and then 24 verses 1 and 2, where you can read all of it. This is Job. My foot hath held his steps, his way have I kept, and not declined. So that would be us as we're paying attention and watching. Neither have I gone back from the commandment of his lips. I have esteemed the words of his mouth more than my necessary food. That sounds like, kind of, really paying attention spiritually. But he is in one mind, and who can turn him? And what his soul desireth, even that he doeth. So his desire might be to bring his wrath to the appointed. For he performeth the thing that is appointed for me, and many such things are with him. So that may have some prophetic implications. Therefore am I troubled at his presence when I consider. I am afraid of him. And that, at times like these, can be a very true statement. For God maketh my heart soft, and the Almighty troubleth me. And so if you're paying attention and watching, it's like it says in Luke 21:36, then you might be in that same, for God maketh my heart soft. You might be in that same thing and being troubled and upset a little bit by the things that are going on. And not to worry, fear not, little flock, for it's my Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, he says in Luke 12:32, verse 17, because I was not cut off before the darkness, neither hath he covered the darkness from my face. So maybe we're going to be something happening with these asteroids that would cause the darkness and would kind of scare us to think that, he hasn't covered my face. But I think Matthew 24:27, where he says the lightning is going to come, and in 28 he talks about the dead bodies. I think that refers to the lightning being the rapture, and the dead bodies being the war that we see in Matthew 24:7. We also see the same thing in Luke 17:24. So it's interesting, and look at those, compare those two sections of passage. And down here in Job 24:1-2, he says, why, seeing times are not hidden from the Almighty, and these are the times we're looking at maybe, do they not know him, not see his days? See, they not turning toward God, even though we might have seen that Revelation 12 prophecy both in 2017 and 7 years later in 2025. Well, it's 8 years later, but 8's a new beginning, isn't it? So some remove the landmarks, they violently take away flocks and feed thereof. In other words, there'll be great disruption. I think that the times are not hidden. There'll be great disruption that talks about in Revelation, and people will steal the flocks, armies will steal the flocks, and they'll just eat them, and they won't think about prosperity and growing or anything like that, other than just war and self-concern and violence. So I think as we see these things coming, I just want to give you kind of that word on that, and it's not a big thing, but I hope you're not troubled, and I hope you just keep on looking and watching and understanding more things. Observe the satellite. You have any comments, just put them right here at this video. I'll keep this up for a while. I probably won't do any more for a while until after we see what this comet's going to do. And if I don't get to meet you down there, then I know I'll get to see you up there in heaven. God bless.